What's going on, everyone? So, Jerami Grant, somebody that the Lakers have had interest in, right? There's talks about the Lakers potentially even trading for Jerami Grant last offseason. There was some early murmurs of even at the trade deadline and then going into the offseason, but those quickly were squashed that the Lakers, no one's trading for Jerami Grant, especially with the new CBA. It's not happening, right? Well, Portland has not been able to have success in trading Jerami Grant and is reported to potentially be looked at as a buyout candidate. So Reese Coons, who is a Portland Trailblazer, not like a Lakers source or anything like that, this comes from Portland, actually has made several reports about this, or several articles about this, and made a more recent one with the Rip City Project, in which is relayed that hey, Jerami Grant might be the worst contract in all of basketball after the Bradley Beal buyout. The Portland Trailblazers cannot trade him unless they attach assets. They are a young team that's going in a young direction that have several young players that play his position at either forward spot. So how much opportunity is he going to get? How many minutes is he going to get? What type of role is he going to play? He's not 23 to where it's okay, he can develop over a couple years. He's 31. He'll be 32 midway through the season next year. He's probably going to want to go to some type of contender or a place where he can play a bigger role, right? And it just doesn't make sense for Portland. So you're seeing all these teams kind of bite the bullet here, kind of pony up and end up buying guys out, waiving guys and stretching guys. And again, according to Reese, it's hey, Portland and Jerami Grant might end up being headed for one of those, buyout candidates. So to keep an eye on Jerami Grant, not just for the Lakers, but just generally. Like I said, it's not a Lakers report or article or anything. It's a Portland thing, right? And so, again, Jerami Grant, to trade for him, absolutely not. But if he was to be bought out and you could sign him, absolutely, right? He's a very good player. I didn't mind if they could have gotten him for free last year. I didn't mind it. I would have went and get him, right? If he gets bought out, he could be your starting three. It's just, will he buy into playing both sides of the basketball? His defense has kind of dropped the last few seasons. We'll get into the numbers and all that stuff here in a moment. But if you can get Jerami Grant for free, essentially for a vet minimum or a biannual or something, then yes. He be the best option on the market, and he solves your kind of 3-and-D wing, right? He solves, that 6'7" versatile guy. You could slot him in. Also, you were able to get Jerami Grant for free, even if you weren't we don't necessarily want him as our starter. It would still give you now the luxury to now trade Rui without kind of okay, who's going to replace him if we got to trade for a wing now or whatever. Also kind of gives you that depth, but also gives you that leverage now to get into negotiations for other things, right? Andrew Wiggins, for example. I know there are reports that the Lakers are out on Andrew Wiggins and whatnot, but is that because they really weren't really that interested, or is that just because Miami has an insane asking price because Miami's looking at it as hey, what are your other options here? Right? You want a guy? Guess what? These are your best options. Where your best option is Andrew Wiggins. Well, if the Lakers would land a Jerami Grant, now it's hey, he's not our best option because we just got a guy, right? We just ended up with a guy that we're more than happy to be our starter, that can do a lot of the same, self-create, create a little bit for others, rebound the basketball, hit shots, all of that. Right? We're happy to go with that. Now it gives you the leverage to enter those conversations and those negotiations without having to seem desperate or come from a point of desperation. Right? My problem is I don't know if Portland, and don't necessarily think that Portland is or would buy him out yet. I could see them maybe next season, right? But because Jerami Grant is owed over $102 million over the next 3 years because he has this year, next year, and then he has a player option. But if you buy him out, you're going to have to pay him the player option. Spoiler alert, he's not going to opt out. I'll let you know that right now because it doesn't make any sense. He's never going to get that money back, right? So maybe Portland can kind of do something because the other kind of point is Damian Lillard. So the Portland Trailblazers just brought in Damian Lillard on a 3-year $14 million a year deal. So he's making $14 million a year. You're going to have to start paying guys. You're going to have to start doing things. It would make sense to maybe kind of waive and stretch Jerami Grant over maybe the next 3 years, kind of get him on a discount or whatever, right? Have him, would he give back 15 million or something, 20 million, right? Like, can you get him on that? Be like, hey, we'll give you, instead of 102 million, would you take 85 million or 82 million? And you can kind of like work it out and stretch it out over the next few years to kind of maybe offset the Damian Lillard acquisition, right? Because you got to keep in mind, Dame isn't going to play this year. So they're gonna kind of get through this year. Now would be a good time to kind of give the young guys as much opportunity as possible to kind of expedite their growth in their process. So that way when Dame comes back, if Dame can get back into the swing of things, then now it's like, okay, now you got Dame plus look at what Kamara's doing and Denny and, Donovan Clegan and, and Yane and all these guys, right? Like, so I get the idea. It makes sense, especially with the new CBA. Like if we weren't in the new CBA era, I would be like, absolutely not. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, Portland's better off just kind of dealing with it and just tell Jerami Grant, like, look, dude, you're making 30 million a year. Like, you'll be okay. But now with the new CBA and you're seeing teams wanting to get out of things quicker rather than later, like, and Portland's basically locked up. Right? Like, their roster is basically who their roster is going to be for the next few years. Right? Because they're going to start paying some of these young guys, Scoot and whatnot, right? But also, like, you have enough young core depth and talent. You added a couple key veterans, which I think is really nice. So the question is, does Jerami Grant buy in as like one of the development guys? Is he willing to be like, hey, I'm happy in Portland. I'm fine coming off the bench and being kind of one of those guys that helps develop your young guys? If he is, then yeah, keep him, right? But if he's not, then save yourself the headache, save yourself the noise and the mess, right? Get off of them. That frees up your opportunity for the young guys. You clear some salary space for the next few years. Like I said, you basically have your roster intact of what you're trying to do. You have basically 5 centers that you need to work out. They still have a roster spot or two. If they get off of Jerami Grant, they'd still have 2. Now they'd have 2 open roster spots that they can bring guys in or make trades or do whatever, right? And you kind of use this year as like, hey, let's try to really grow our young guys. So that way next year, Damian Lillard comes back. He plugs in, slots alongside, Drew Holiday and all these other guys. And then you got Denny and Kamara and then Donovan Clegan. That's probably their starting 5 next year. This year, it's probably, Drew Holiday's Sharp, so on and so forth. Maybe Drew Holiday comes off the bench. Maybe it's Dame Sharp, right? Denny and Kamara with Donovan Clegan. But point is, like, that's going to be their core. It's going to be their starters. It's going to be their unit, right? And so if you're Portland, I get it. I get why there are reports coming out of Portland that's like, hey, keep an eye on Jerami. They're not saying it's guaranteed to happen, like, oh, it's just a matter of when. They're just kind of saying, like, keep an eye on it. That Portland may look to, they already bought out Deandre Ayton. That was easier. That was cleaner, right? Because it's kind of like he just was on his last year. So it's just like, hey, take this discount and go, right? Take 15 million less and go. So you're able to save a little bit. But you could do the same thing with Jerami Grant, right? Like, hey, give back 20 million. We'll buy you out. You can go to a contender. You can go to a team, right? You're going to get back, a biannual exception. So you get, you're basically taking 10, 15 million less. Like, do us all a favor and then we'll stretch you out over those years. And so they'll save, 15 million a year or whatever, right? It's kind of a win-win for all sides. It's a win-win for Jerami Grant because now he gets to go to a place. It's a win-win for Portland because they kind of get off of him. They don't have to deal with the headache. They clear some salary over the next few years as they got to start paying guys and Damian Lillard's new contract, and you get it, right? And then for the Lakers, it now gives them an option that they were willing to trade for last season, but gives them an option that can slot in as your starter or as your backup, kind of give you that elevation. I would love, and kind of fingers crossed that happens. Right? And I know people, I've talked about people, buyout, like Rob's banking on the buyout. Like, what's the difference? What's the difference if you trade for a guy or you go and get a guy for free off a buyout? Like, Jerami Grant is worth more than the vet minimum. He's worth more than the biannual, right? Like, say what you want about Jerami Grant. I mean, he's at least 18, 15 to $20 million player minimum, right? Maybe even more on the right team, the right situation, especially if he gets bought in, and because that's kind of been the thing. He's been on Portland. How much of it is he's on Portland? How much of it is like, go back to a contender and he could be something nice? I mean, even last year, right? To quickly go through the stats on him: 47 games played, 47 games started, 32 minutes per game, 12.2 field goal attempts per game, 37.3% from the floor, shot 36.5% from three-point range, which is the worst he's done in the last 3 years. He was 40%, 40.2% and 40.1% on 5.1 attempts and 5.7 attempts during 2022, 2023, and 2023, 2024. So last year, he was basically league average on 6.3 attempts, though. Right? He's going to be slotted alongside Luka, LeBron James, and Austin Reeves, who are going to get him wide open looks. I think it's very likely he gets back to that 38% range, maybe at worst. 2-point range is where he really struggled. 38.1% from 2-point range. 46.7% EFG, 85% free throw shooting on 3.5 attempts, 3.5 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, a block, and 14.4 points per game. The 2 years previous to that, he was 20 points, 4 to 4.5 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal, a block per game. Like I said, shot 40% from 3-point range each of those seasons, shot around 50% from 2-point range each of those seasons. Can he get back to that? Probably. Slot alongside Luka and LeBron James? I think so. I think it's a real possibility. But again, if you can get him for free, I think, again, it's another low risk, high reward type move. And he's a guy that you could like Bradley Beal was like, you're really going to give him the starting spot with Austin Reeves. Jerami Grant, you could get like, hey, here you go. And then now you can go trade Rui if that's what you want to do. But let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos. Truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.